Okay, so I am going to talk about Major League Baseball and the recent need for a salary cap. So before I get in, I'm going to go over kind of a little bit about what it is and maybe how Major League Baseball and different organizations kind of tackle it. So in a general sense, it is pretty much just an agreement where uh, a league kind of limits a team's spending primarily on player salaries, and usually it's a hard cap. But Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap. It is, in fact, the only major North American sport to not have a salary cap. Instead, they use something called a luxury tax system or a competitive balance tax, which pretty much is just a fine and a fee and a tax for a team that spends over a certain amount of money each season. There's no reason, there's no limit, but if a team continues to go over this tax, the percentage they have to pay will continue to go up and can go up to pretty high amounts. So why is this kind of something bringing up now? It's been around for a while, and so recently we saw the 2024 World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees, and the combined salaries of those two teams totaled $580 million just for the 2024 season. Now, to put that to perspective, the six lowest payrolls in Major League Baseball for the 2024 season totaled only $538 million. So you can see there's a lot of difference between that. You also have a recent offseason after they just won the World Series. The Dodgers spent $450 million in free agency. And another major kind of part of that is that a lot of those contracts include deferred payments. So players are going to be paid a lot later than they were playing, after they're done playing with the Dodgers. And even more on that is just the season before they won the World Series, they signed Shohei Ohtani, $700 million contract, with $680 million of that being deferred for 10 years after his contract is up. And so we're going to look at MLB payrolls and we're going to compare them to the NFL. So this is the 24 payrolls. I'll get into specifics with the numbers, but you can see there's just a massive slope going down from the top teams to the bottom teams. And when you compare that to NFL, it's far more balanced and a lot more equal. The lowest team is still in a competitive range of payrolls to the most expensive teams. And you also aren't seeing some of the better teams at the top are only paying money, and some of the worst teams are maybe paying a little less, but they're still being competitive. So let's look at some of the numbers in that. The gap between the highest and lowest payrolls in the NFL was only $71.9 million, while the MLB gap was $266.8 million between the highest and lowest teams. And as you can see with the NFL, when they have a salary cap, you kind of have, there's not really a small market. Everyone's in a kind of the same range. And you can kind of see that with the lowest payroll being the Bucks in the NFL spent $174.5 million, while the Major League lowest payroll was the Athletics, who paid $66.5 million for all their player salaries last season. And so kind of looking at why that happens, is it the salary cap or is it something else? It's kind of a combination. So unlike the NFL, MLB team revenues are a lot more dependent on local markets. NFL gets a lot of regional coverage. MLB is a lot of local coverage. And so that happens to kind of correlate with with teams who have more money. Los Angeles and New York have the largest markets in Major League Baseball, and which gives them the most money to spend. And so kind of going into that, if a team if they want to cap player salaries, you're going to see that players aren't going to be signing at their market value. Instead, they're going to be pushed down a bit, which could lead to some problems. So part of that comes from a recent interview with Andrew Miller, who is a former pitcher and current special assistant of strategic initiatives with the MLBPA. So the MLBPA is Major League Baseball's union for all their players. So they deal with making sure they're paid right and making all this money. So in a recent interview, he said that a salary cap has a chance for owners to limit their labor costs. So instead of it being something to kind of try to keep teams competitive, owners are going to want this so that they can spend even less money. So your Ohtanis, your big players, might not get the money they deserve, even if they go to a lower team. And he kind of makes an argument that the fact that there is a dynasty, that people think there's dynasties kind of forming, is kind of false. Major League Baseball has some of the most variety in World Series champions and World Series team appearances in most sports. You know, the NFL, you have the Chiefs, you have the Patriots from a few years ago, you have the Warriors in the NBA. Obviously, they're always top teams, but when you get to the championship, it's a different thing. And Jeff Passan, and kind of going off that, had a recent interview as well, where Major League Baseball's CBA is going to be expiring after the 26th season. So that's when they're going to be discussing something like this. And if owners in Major League Baseball do indeed want a salary cap, you're going to see another lockout. As he said, MLB is going to lock out the players in early December of 26. And just 4 years ago, we already had a lockout that almost caused catastrophic problems with the MLB season. And he says this has a chance to be a lot darker and a lot worse than 4 years ago. So, is this the right move? As much as I've already believed in a salary cap, through my research, it would likely slow the growth of the game and be more detrimental than have positive impacts. Instead, we could see other options like limits on deferred payments or a salary floor, which could force those lower teams to spend more money and keeps players valued at more correct levels. I think the most important thing is when you saw that graph, instead of trying to lower the top teams, I think you should be trying to raise the bottom teams' payrolls. So if you want to grow those teams, I think Major League Baseball should look into growing those smaller markets through new forms of revenue sharing and more national coverage. Thank you.